Welcome back to Crime Podcastle's Twisted Love,
Crimes of Passion.
series episode 7 tonight.
Yeah.
We're diving into a case that really shook Mumbai back in 2012, the murder of Pallavi Purkayastha. It's a story that forces us to confront
It really does.
the dark realities of obsession and the fragility of trust.
Absolutely. This case is a harsh reminder that even in the midst of a bustling city like Mumbai, darkness can lurk in the most unexpected corners.
Pallavi Purkayastha was a young,
Very young.
successful lawyer,
She's extremely successful.
just 25 years old, with a promising career ahead of her.
A bright future cut short.
She was living with her fiancé in what seemed like a perfectly normal life. It's hard to imagine the horror that awaited her.
It's a stark contrast, isn't it? This vibrant, ambitious woman living a life full of promise, suddenly cut short by such a senseless act of violence. It really underscores how vulnerable we all are, no matter how secure our lives might seem.
So let's rewind back to that fateful night of August 9th, 2012.
Okay.
Could you paint a picture of the events leading up to the crime?
Well, it began like any ordinary evening in Mumbai. Pallavi's fiancé, Avik Singh Gupta, was out at a work event, leaving her alone in their apartment. Late that night, around 11 p.m., the power went out.
Ugh, a power outage late at night, alone in the city. I can already feel the anxiety building.
It's certainly unsettling, especially in a city as bustling as Mumbai. So Pallavi did what most of us would do.
Well.
She called down to building security to report the issue.
Seems like a pretty standard procedure, right?
It does.
Call security, get the problem fixed.
Sure.
What could go wrong?
Well, that seemingly routine call would have devastating consequences. You see, the security guard who responded, Sajjad Pathan, had been harboring a dangerous obsession with Pallavi for months.
Hold on, the security guard, the person she's supposed to rely on for safety.
Exactly.
That's just bone-chilling.
Oh, it is. It really highlights the dark side of trust, how those in positions of authority can exploit that trust in the most horrific ways. While attending to the power issue, Sajjad seized the opportunity to make a copy of Pallavi's apartment key. This seemingly minor act would set in motion a chain of events that would end in tragedy.
So he literally used his job as a means to gain access to her home.
He did.
That's a level of premeditation that's truly disturbing.
Absolutely. It speaks to a level of planning and calculation that's both frightening and unfortunately not uncommon in cases of stalking and obsession.
This is already so unsettling. What happened next? Did Sajjad use that key that same night?
He did. Just a few hours later, around 1:30 a.m., he used that stolen key to enter Pallavi's apartment with the intent to assault her.
Wow, he didn't even wait. That's terrifying. What happened when he got inside?
Thankfully, Pallavi woke up and confronted Sajjad. She fought back against his attack, but the situation quickly escalated into a violent struggle.
It's hard to imagine the sheer terror she must have felt in that moment. To be woken up in the middle of the night by someone you thought you could trust, someone who's supposed to be protecting you.
It is. It's a nightmare scenario. Despite her brave resistance, Sajjad overpowered Pallavi, stabbing her multiple times. She tragically bled to death right there on her apartment floor.
This is just heartbreaking. And to make things even worse, her fiancé Avik came home to discover her body. The shock and the trauma, I can't even imagine.
You're right. It's a detail that adds another layer of tragedy to this already horrific case. To find the woman you love, the woman you're planning to spend your life with, murdered in your own home.
Oh my God.
That's a level of devastation that's hard to comprehend.
So how did the police even begin to unravel this case?
Well,
What led them to Sajjad?
fortunately for the investigation, there were some pretty clear clues right from the start. The fact that Pallavi's apartment door was unlocked with no signs of forced entry immediately raised red flags. And of course, the missing duplicate key was a crucial piece of evidence. It pointed directly to someone with access to the building's security system.
So Sajjad was an immediate suspect.
Exactly. And the evidence against him just kept mounting. Investigators quickly uncovered CCTV footage that placed Sajjad at Pallavi's apartment that evening. They also collected witness statements that corroborated his presence.
So it sounds like they had a pretty solid case against him even without a confession.
They did. But to make things even more airtight, Sajjad actually confessed to the crime during interrogation. He admitted to his obsession with Pallavi, to entering her apartment with the intention to assault her and ultimately to her murder.
Wow, a confession on top of everything else. That's pretty damning. It's chilling to think that someone could commit such a brutal act and then just admit to it so readily.
It certainly raises questions about his psychological state and what drove him to not only commit the crime, but also to confess so openly. It speaks to a complex mix of motives, potentially, including a warped sense of guilt or even a desire for notoriety.
It's hard to grasp the mindset of someone capable of such violence.
Yeah.
So what happened next? Did Sajjad face trial?
He did. The trial began in 2013 and quickly gained national attention.
Oh,
The case struck a nerve with the public not just because of its brutality, but also because it raised concerns about the safety of women, particularly those living alone in urban areas.
it's easy to feel overwhelmed by stories like this, to think, what's the point of even trying to protect yourself if something like this can happen? But I think it's important to remember that we're not powerless.
I agree. While we can't control the actions of others, we can certainly take steps to mitigate risks and empower ourselves.
So let's talk about those steps. What practical advice can we offer listeners to enhance their personal safety, especially in light of Pallavi's case?
Well, first and foremost, it's crucial to trust your instincts. If something feels off, if someone's behavior makes you uncomfortable, don't ignore those feelings. Our intuition is often our best defense mechanism.
It's easy to dismiss those gut feelings to think we're being paranoid. But in this case, Pallavi's initial trust of the security guard ultimately proved fatal.
Exactly. It's not about living in a constant state of fear, but rather about being aware of potential dangers and taking reasonable precautions.
So being cautious, but not letting fear control our lives.
Precisely. And part of that caution involves being mindful of our surroundings, especially at night. Walk with confidence, be aware of who's around you, and, if possible, avoid walking alone in poorly lit areas.
Those are all good tips for staying safe on the streets. But what about at home? What measures can we take to increase our security within our own living spaces?
Home security is crucial. Make sure your doors and windows are properly secured. Consider installing a home security system, and most importantly, be cautious about who you allow into your home.
So being selective about who has access to our personal space.
Exactly, and that includes being mindful of where you keep spare keys and who has access to them. Pallavi's case is a tragic example of how a seemingly innocuous item like a spare key can be used for nefarious purposes.
It's those small details that can make a big difference. So being vigilant about both our physical surroundings and who we trust is essential.
Absolutely. We can't predict every potential danger, but we can certainly take steps to minimize risks and empower ourselves.
Now let's delve a bit deeper into the psychology of this case. Sajjad was clearly obsessed with Pallavi. Can you shed some light on what drives this kind of obsessive behavior?
Obsession is a complex phenomenon, and it can manifest in many different ways. In this case, we see a clear example of what's known as erotomania, a delusional disorder, where an individual believes that another person, often someone of higher social status, is in love with them.
So it's not about genuine affection, but rather a distorted perception of reality.
Exactly. Individuals with erotomania often create elaborate fantasies around their target of obsession, interpreting even the smallest actions or gestures as signs of reciprocation.
It's almost like they're living in their own world, detached from reality.
In a sense, they are, and this detachment from reality can make them incredibly persistent and difficult to deter. Rejection is often interpreted as a challenge, further fueling their obsessive pursuit.
That's so unsettling. It makes you wonder, are there any early warning signs that someone might be developing this kind of unhealthy obsession? Red flags that we should be aware of.
There are definitely some signs to watch out for. Excessive attention, possessive behavior, difficulty accepting rejection, and attempts to isolate the target from their support system are all red flags.
So someone's constantly checking in, trying to control who you see and where you go. Those are major warning signs.
Absolutely. And it's crucial to address those issues early on. Clear communication is key. Let the person know that their behavior is unacceptable and that you need space.
But what if those attempts at communication fail? What if the obsessive behavior escalates despite your efforts to set boundaries?
In those cases, it's crucial to prioritize your safety. Don't hesitate to involve law enforcement or seek a restraining order. Remember, your safety is paramount and there are resources available to help.
That's reassuring to know. It's easy to feel helpless in these situations, but it's important to remember that there are systems in place to protect victims.
Absolutely. There are support groups, hotlines, and legal resources available to help individuals navigate these challenging situations. You're not alone.
So early intervention and seeking help when needed are crucial steps in breaking free from these obsessive patterns.
Precisely. Awareness, communication, and timely intervention can often prevent these situations from escalating into something as tragic as Pallavi's case.
This conversation has been really eye-opening, shedding light on the importance of recognizing the warning signs and taking action before it's too late. But amidst all this darkness, I think it's important to remember that Pallavi's story isn't just about tragedy. It's also about resilience and the enduring power of her legacy.
That's a great point. While we can't erase the pain of her loss, we can certainly honor her memory by working towards a future where similar tragedies are less likely to occur.
Exactly. And that's what we'll be exploring in the next part of our deep dive. We'll delve into the impact of Pallavi's case, the initiatives that have been inspired by her story, and what we can all do to create a safer world. It's easy to get caught up in the darkness of cases like this, but
Yeah.
I think it's important to remember that there's also light to be found. Pallavi's story,
Absolutely.
though tragic, also highlights
Yes.
the resilience of the human spirit
It really does.
and the power of turning pain into purpose.
That's an important perspective. Even in the face of unimaginable loss, there's often a profound strength that emerges, a determination to honor the victim's memory and to prevent similar tragedies from happening to others.
And I think that's where Pallavi's legacy truly shines. Her family and friends channeled their grief into
They
action,
did.
creating positive change in her name.
Absolutely. They established the Pallavi Purkayastha Foundation, which has been instrumental in advocating for stricter security measures in residential complexes and raising awareness about the importance of thorough background checks for employees.
So they're taking concrete steps
Yeah,
to address the very vulnerabilities that led to Pallavi's tragic death.
exactly. They're working to ensure that security systems truly serve their intended purpose to protect rather than endanger, and they're not stopping there. The foundation is also actively involved in empowering women through self-defense training, equipping individuals with the skills and confidence to protect themselves.
It's inspiring to see how they've transformed their grief into a force for good, turning a personal tragedy
All right.
into a movement for broader societal change.
It's a testament to the power of the human spirit to find meaning and purpose even in the darkest of times. And it's not just about systemic changes. The foundation also provides support and counseling to families affected by similar tragedies, offering a lifeline to those struggling to cope with the aftermath of such horrific events.
It's a holistic approach,
It is.
addressing both the practical safety concerns and the emotional needs of those impacted by such crimes.
Right,
It's about creating a safer world,
right.
but also a more compassionate one.
Precisely. Pallavi's legacy extends far beyond the courtroom. It's about fostering a culture of awareness and vigilance. A society where we look out for one another and actively work to prevent these kinds of tragedies from occurring.
So it's about individual responsibility, but also collective action,
Yes,
a shared commitment to creating a world where everyone feels safe and secure.
exactly. It's about shifting the narrative from fear and helplessness to empowerment and proactive change. Pallavi's story reminds us that even amidst darkness, we have the power to make a difference.
And that's a powerful message to end on, a message of hope and resilience in the face of tragedy.
It's a reminder that even though we can't bring back those we've lost, we can honor their memory by striving to create a world where their stories serve as catalysts for positive, lasting change.
Well said. This deep dive into Pallavi's case has been both heartbreaking and inspiring. It's a reminder of the fragility of life,
It is.
but also the strength of the human spirit.
It's a case that compels us to confront uncomfortable realities, but also to seek solutions, to advocate for change, and to never lose sight of the importance of human connection and compassion.
As always, we encourage our listeners to continue the conversation. Share your thoughts, ask questions, and most importantly, take action.
Yes.
Let's honor Pallavi's memory by working together to create a world where tragedies like this are less likely to occur.
And remember, if you or someone you know is struggling with obsessive behavior or feels threatened, there are resources available to help. Don't hesitate to reach out for support.
We'll include links to those resources in our show notes. And as always, thank you for joining us on CrimePod Castle's Twisted Love, Crimes of Passion series. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to the podcast for more deep dives into compelling true crime stories. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay safe.
Take care, everyone.